Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. My name is Elena, and I was brushing my dog in the living room when the knock came. Not a gentle knock, 3 loud, deliberate pounds that made my heart drop into my stomach. I peeked through the peephole. Police. 2 officers. One with a notepad. The other scanning the hallway like something dangerous might jump out. My hands started to sweat. I hadn't done anything, right? Ma'am, the taller officer said as I opened the door a crack. We need to ask you a few questions about what happened in Oak Ridge Park this afternoon. My throat went dry. Oak Ridge Park. The little boy. The one who was crying near the swings. I stepped back and opened the door fully. The officer continued, "You were seen hugging a child who wasn't yours." And just like that, I realized, something was very, very wrong. Earlier that day, the sun had been warm, the air calm, and the park quiet. I was sitting on a bench near the walking trail, enjoying a book and the occasional bark from my golden retriever, Max. Then I heard it, the soft, choked sobs of a child. He was maybe 6. Sitting alone under the swing set. No adult in sight. His tiny face was red, his shirt had grass stains, and he looked terrified. I looked around, no stroller, no parent, no babysitter. I approached gently. "Hey, sweetheart. Are you lost?" He nodded, tears rolling silently. I knelt down, asked his name, Eli. I told him it would be okay. He wrapped his arms around me, desperate, like a child who had nothing else. I hugged him. Not for attention. Not for a photo. Just because he looked like he needed to feel safe. 10 minutes later, a woman came running, screaming, "Eli! Oh my God!" The mother. She snatched him up, barely looking at me. I stepped back, feeling like maybe I'd overstepped, but also relieved he was safe. And I left. Or so I thought. Back at my apartment, I couldn't stop thinking about Eli. Was he okay? Was the woman actually his mother? Turns out, someone had taken a video. A shaky, 20-second clip. Me hugging Eli. Him crying. No context. It went viral within hours. Caption: Stranger hugs child in park, no parent around. Worse, someone filed a report. That's why the officers were at my door. Where were you between 3 and 4 p.m.? Do you know this child? Did he say anything about his home? I answered everything honestly. But I could see it in their eyes, they were torn between logic and pressure. The world had already decided I was a threat. And then came the twist. 2 days later, I got another knock, not from police, but from Eli's actual father. He looked broken. He apologized. Turns out, Eli's mother hadn't been at the park at all. The woman who ran up that day? His aunt. She was supposed to be watching him, got distracted, and lied to cover her tracks. The video had triggered a custody hearing. Eli's father wanted answers, and he found me through the police. Eli told the court, "You were the only person who made him feel safe that day," he said, his voice trembling. "He said you smelled like vanilla and hugged like a grandma." I smiled through the lump in my throat. That's when it all shifted. The police cleared me. The court dismissed the complaint. But the internet never apologized. People shared the clip for weeks. Some sent hate. Some sent support. But none of them knew the truth. That I was just a woman who saw a crying boy and did what any human should. Months later, I got a card in the mail. No return address. Just a child's handwriting. "Thank you for making the scary go away." Inside was a drawing, me, Eli, and Max under the swings. And suddenly, everything made sense. My name is Helen. And what I'm about to tell you, it still haunts me every single night. "You're not her mother." Those were the words that shattered everything. I didn't hear them from a stranger. I didn't hear them from her real parents. I heard them from her, from the girl I fed, bathed, prayed over, and cried with for 20 years. The girl who once clung to my leg, scared of monsters under her bed, now looked me dead in the eye and said, like I meant nothing, "You're just the babysitter who stuck around too long." "Excuse me?" I stepped forward, my voice trembling, heart racing. "What did you just say?" It wasn't a misunderstanding. Her tone was cold. Final. Deliberate. "You heard me, Helen." She didn't even call me grandma. "I think it's time you stop making this about you. This is my wedding day." People had turned. Heads were tilted. Forks paused midair. This wasn't a private moment. It was a public slap in the face. "You ungrateful little." I felt my mouth moving faster than my thoughts. "Do you think those dresses on your back paid for themselves? Do you think those college applications got filled out magically? When your real mother left you on my porch like a package, where do you think she went? Where was she every birthday? Every scraped knee? Every late-night fever?" She didn't flinch. "She came back for me," she said, almost smug. "At least she didn't try to control me like you always did." Control? I blinked hard. Was that what she thought this was? I didn't control her. I protected her. From the truth. From the pain. From the people who abandoned her. The DJ stopped the music. Guests whispered behind clutched hands. Her groom stood frozen near the cake, unsure if he should intervene or run. Then came her fiancé's mother. All pearls and privilege, stepping between us like some courtroom judge. "I think Helen needs to take a walk and cool down," she said softly, but with venom in every syllable. "This isn't the place for old wounds, is it?" That did it. I turned on her like a woman possessed. do not, talk to me like I'm a senile fool," I said, stepping forward. "Do you even know how many diapers I changed? How many nights I didn't sleep while her birth parents partied in Cancun and rehab?" My chest heaved. My hands trembled. But she just rolled her eyes. "You made the choice to take her in. Don't expect a trophy for doing what you signed up for." My heart cracked. I looked around the room. No one stepped forward. No one spoke up. Not even her. Not the girl I once held during thunderstorms, who used to say, "Grandma, don't ever leave me." Now she was the one walking away. "I didn't raise you to be cruel," I whispered. "I raised you to be strong. To be kind. To know the truth." She crossed her arms. "No, you raised me to be yours. That's the problem." And that was when I knew, this wasn't just a bad day. It was war. This wasn't about a wedding. This was about years of buried resentment, lies that festered, and truths I had hidden to protect her, truths that were now being twisted into weapons. "You don't even know what your real mother gave up," I said. "Or what she took." The crowd had gone silent. Even the clinking of glasses had stopped. "Oh really?" she snapped. "And what exactly did she take?" My eyes locked with hers. I almost said it. The one thing I had sworn I'd take to the grave. But something stopped me. Not fear. Not shame. It was love. That last little flicker that refused to die. "I think you know," I said instead. "You just don't want to believe it." Her jaw tightened. Her knuckles whitened around the bouquet. And then she did the unthinkable. She walked back up to the head table, lifted the microphone, and tapped it twice. Her voice rang out clear as crystal. "Everyone, thank you for coming. I know this wasn't part of the plan, but maybe it's time you all knew the real story." I froze. Was she really about to do this? Was she really about to turn me into the villain, in front of 100 people? She looked me dead in the eyes. "I want to thank the woman who raised me. Who gave me everything she had. But I also want to make it clear, That the woman standing here today is not my mother. The room gasped. People looked at me. Pity. Confusion. Judgment. And then, without a flicker of guilt, she smiled. She lied to me. 4 years. And I deserve to start my new life with the truth. I didn't feel my legs move. I just walked. Straight out of that room. Past the flowers. Past the candles. Past the life I'd built brick by brick, now crumbling like it never mattered. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't done. Not even close. Because there was one more truth, one she didn't know. One her real parents begged me to never say. But after what she just did? I was done protecting people who would rather burn me than thank me. She wanted a wedding day to remember? Oh, she was about to get one. And by the time I was done, everyone would finally know who I really was. And what I really did for her. I sat in my car outside the venue, my hand still clenched around the steering wheel. I wasn't sure if I was trembling from anger or heartbreak. Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe I had finally reached the point where pain just stopped registering. For 20 years, I had built my life around one girl. Not out of obligation. Not because I had to. But because I chose to. I stepped in when no one else would. When her parents ran off chasing drugs and promises. When no one believed she could turn into anything more than another statistic. But she did. She became something beautiful. Strong. Fierce. But also, cold. And now, all I had left were bruised memories and the sound of her voice echoing in my ears, "You're not my mother." The sky outside had darkened, and a light drizzle tapped against the windshield. I could still hear the music inside faintly. She had gone back to dancing like nothing happened. Like I'd never existed. I imagined her in that gown, twirling in the arms of a man I'd never truly known. A man whose family looked at me like I was dirt under their shoe. And for the first time in years, I whispered something I never thought I'd say. Maybe I should have left her on that porch. The words felt sour. Rotten in my mouth. But they were real. I didn't say them because I believed them. I said them because for once, I wanted to stop hurting. I closed my eyes, and just like that, I was back there again. It was 20 years ago. Middle of the night. I had just come back from my nursing shift when I heard the knock. Faint. Hesitant. Almost like someone didn't really want me to answer. I opened the door and there she was, barely 3 years old. Shivering in a pink coat, her cheeks red from crying. Her little fists clenched around a worn-out bunny toy. And behind her? Nothing. No note. No car. Just empty street. I recognized the child instantly. My niece's daughter. From the daughter who had cut me out years ago. From the woman who used to scream, "I never asked to be born," whenever my sister tried to help. She had walked away from her own child, and dumped her on my doorstep like yesterday's trash. I should have called CPS. I should have knocked on every door until I found her. But instead, I opened my arms. She looked up at me, blinking, and whispered, "Can I come in?" That was the beginning. The start of my motherhood. Not born from biology or legal documents, but from the rawest form of love, sacrifice. But none of that mattered now, did it? Not to her. Not today. I was just the woman who got in the way. Back in the present, I watched the guests begin to leave. Some looked uncomfortable. A few shot glances at my car. One even laughed. They'd all pretend nothing happened. It's easier that way. Let the crazy old lady be the problem. But then I saw him. Her father. Jason. Strolling out of the venue in a tailored suit like he didn't have 10 years of abandonment on his record. Like he wasn't the same man who'd once said, "This baby ruined my life." He saw me and froze. Good. I opened the door and stepped out. He straightened his tie, tried to pretend he wasn't nervous. But I knew him too well. Didn't expect to see you, he said. I walked right up to him. Slapped him so hard his head turned. He didn't say a word. You let her believe you came back for her, I spat. You didn't come back. You ran into money. That's what happened. You saw a wedding. You saw photos. You saw the chance to be the good dad again. He rubbed his cheek, eyes darting around. It's her big day, Helen. I didn't want to cause trouble. No, I said. You just wanted to play hero after I did the hard work. He sighed. She's old enough to decide what she wants to believe. I stepped closer, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Then maybe it's time she hears what you really did. What you really left behind. His face changed. Color drained. You wouldn't. I cut him off. Try me. Back at home that night, I sat in the quiet. I looked around the living room. Every photo on the wall, her birthdays, her graduation, her first piano recital, they were all framed and straightened with the kind of love only a mother has. And yet, none of those memories had made it into the wedding slideshow. Not one. Instead, there were old scanned Polaroids of her biological parents, people who couldn't stay clean long enough to raise a goldfish, let alone a child. It was like I'd been erased. I walked over to the bookshelf. Pulled down the envelope I had kept hidden for years. Inside, everything was there. The court document from the night CPS tried to intervene, but I stopped them. The rehab records. The letter from her birth mother, begging me not to tell her daughter the truth. And finally, the DNA test. The one that proved the biggest lie of all. She thought she knew who her parents were. But she didn't know the truth. Because I wasn't just her aunt. I wasn't just the woman who raised her. I was more. Much more. And I had kept that truth locked away. Until now. Because sometimes, the only way to save someone is to let them break. And when she finally came knocking, after all the confetti had been swept up and the guests had gone home, I would be waiting. With the truth. And this time? She would listen. It was 6:17 a.m. when the knock came. Not the kind that waits politely. The kind that insists. That demands. I didn't even have time to finish my coffee before she started banging on the door. Open it, she shouted. Now. I knew who it was before I looked through the peephole. A wedding dress still clung to her body, now wrinkled and dirty at the hem. Her makeup smudged, not from crying, but from hours of pretending not to. She had clearly run straight from the venue. No jacket. No phone. Just fury. And confusion. And, if I squinted hard enough, fear. I opened the door. She didn't wait to be invited in. She stormed past me like she owned the place. Like she hadn't just thrown 20 years of motherhood to the wolves in front of 300 people and a live-streaming drone. She turned around, holding the envelope. The one I had slid into her wedding gift box the night before. A sealed, cream-colored letter. A simple line written across it. If you love me, read this when you're ready. She hadn't been ready last night. But clearly, something had changed. She waved the open envelope at me like it was a weapon. What is this? You read it, didn't you? I asked softly. I want to hear it from you, she snapped. Tell me it's not true. Tell me this is just one of your twisted guilt tricks. I leaned against the kitchen counter. No more games. No more waiting for her to love me like a daughter. Now, she would have to understand the truth. All of it is true, I said. Every word. I had never told her how she came into the world. She'd asked, once. Maybe twice. I'd always changed the subject. Because how do you explain to a child that her mother was your own teenage niece who once tried to pawn her off for a hit of meth? How do you explain that her father didn't just leave, but told everyone you were the crazy one for taking her in? She used to think I was a hero. Now she thought I was a liar. I don't believe you, she said, her voice cracking. You just didn't want me to find my real family. That word, real. It cut deeper than any slap. I turned and opened the old file cabinet beside the couch. I hadn't touched it in years. But I knew exactly where everything was. One by one, I handed her the papers. The hospital bracelet from the night she was born. The rehab intake form from her mother, my niece, signed 6 months later. The court petition that was denied because I offered to raise her without filing for adoption, just so her birth family wouldn't lose face. And finally, the DNA test. Not for her. But for me. She stared at it like it was written in a foreign language. You're not just my aunt, she whispered. I shook my head. No. I'm not. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I was raped when I was 19, I said softly. I never told anyone. Not the police. Not my parents. Not even your mother. I buried it. And I got pregnant. She backed up, horrified. Not at me. At what she didn't. No. But I couldn't bear to keep you. Not back then. I didn't even look at you. I gave you to my sister, your so-called mother. She wanted a baby so bad. And I thought, maybe it was meant to be. I looked away, blinking fast. But she wasn't ready. She was spiraling. She couldn't even care for herself. So one night, she left you at my door. And I swore I wouldn't fail you twice. Silence. Dead and heavy. She stared down at the test again. Finally, she whispered, so I'm yours? I nodded. You always were. She sat down slowly, like her knees might give out. I hated you, she said, tears brimming. I hated you for showing up. For telling me what to do. For always being there. I thought you just couldn't let go. I gave a weak smile. I couldn't. You made me think I was adopted out of pity. No, I said. You were raised out of love. That's the only truth I ever wanted you to hold on to. Her hands trembled in her lap. But why didn't you tell me? I took a deep breath. Because I wanted you to have a normal life. I didn't want your identity to be shaped by pain and violation. I wanted you to choose who you'd become, without the weight of where you came from. She shook her head. But now it's all I can think about. I know. She stood up suddenly. I have to tell him, James. My husband. I stepped forward. No. Not yet. She stared at me. You need time to process. He deserves your whole truth. But you need to understand it first. She left that morning without hugging me. But she didn't slam the door. That was something. Later that day, I got a text from her. 3 words. I'm not ready. I didn't reply. She didn't need an answer. Because some truths don't need closure. They just need time. And time is the one thing I still had left. 3 days passed. No calls. No texts. Not even a voicemail. Just silence. I thought she was overwhelmed. But what I didn't know was that she wasn't the only one reading through that envelope. He did too. James. Her brand new husband. The man who said, "You're my forever," with tears in his eyes. The man I had trusted, because she trusted him. Because I had walked her down the aisle and placed her hand into his. He read it. Not by accident. He searched her purse when she was in the shower. Opened the folded letter. And saw everything. He saw the hospital bracelet. The rehab papers. The DNA test. And instead of sitting her down to talk like a decent man, he took a photo of it all. And sent it to his mother. The first time I knew something was wrong was at the grocery store. A woman I didn't even know stopped me near the frozen peas. Her eyes narrowed like I was a stain on society. "You really ought to be ashamed," she spat. "Raising someone else's child and then pulling that stunt at a wedding? How sick are you?" I blinked. "What? Oh, please don't act innocent. You think people don't talk?" She tossed her groceries into the cart and walked away like she'd just done the world a favor. I stood there stunned, my hands still frozen in midair. How did she know? How did anyone? By the time I got home, my phone was buzzing like a hornet's nest. Voicemails. Social media tags. Even news alerts. Because James's mother, God help us, was one of those suburban queen bees who ran a gossip blog for the church ladies and somehow had 38,000 followers. She had taken the DNA photo. Posted it with a caption that said, "Mother? Or obsessed aunt?" This woman ruined her niece's wedding with a secret 20 years in the making. Some people just can't let go. And just like that, the truth wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to the internet. I called her. 5 times. Straight to voicemail. Finally, I just drove over. James answered the door. He didn't look surprised to see me. He just smirked. Like a man who knew he had won something. But he didn't know what I'd brought in my purse. "Where is she?" I asked, forcing calm into my voice. "She doesn't want to see you," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "I'll let her tell me that. She's asleep." It was almost 6 p.m. He was lying. "She knows what you did," I said. "The blog. The photos. The lies." He shrugged. "I didn't lie. I just helped her see the bigger picture. She's not a brand campaign, James. She's a human being. A daughter. My daughter. Not according to the law." That one stung. "You think you've exposed something," I said. "But you've just proven exactly why she needs to run." He laughed. "Run? From what? A man who gave her stability? A home? A real future?" I stepped closer. "No. From a man who goes through her things and weaponizes her pain behind her back." His smile faltered. I didn't stop. "From a man who cheated on her 4 months ago with a client named Rachel, who got mysteriously transferred to another state once she missed her period." His face turned white. He stepped back. "Get off my porch." I took the envelope out of my purse. Not the old one. A new one. With his receipts. I dropped it at his feet. "Tell her yourself," I said. "Because I'm done cleaning up her messes. And yours." That night, I left my phone on the counter and turned off all the lights. I expected screaming. Maybe even a call from the police. But nothing came. Just a single ping at 2:03 a.m. A text from her. "Everything's broken. But I see it now." By morning, she was back on my couch. Hair tied up. Wedding ring gone. Eyes swollen, but awake. She didn't say much. She just handed me a mug of coffee. And sat beside me. We didn't speak for almost an hour. Just sat in the silence we both needed. Then she whispered. "He called me crazy. Said you manipulated me. Told me I'd regret ever listening to you." I stayed quiet. He almost had me. For a second, I believed him. She turned her head, her eyes locking on mine. But when I saw those receipts, I realized something. "What?" She gave a weak, tearful smile. "The only person who's never lied to me is the one I've been running from." 3 days after the blog post went viral, someone knocked on my door. Not a soft, polite knock. But a pound. Rhythmic. Angry. Familiar. I opened it, and almost dropped the coffee mug in my hand. It was him. Greg. Her biological father. The man who walked out 2 decades ago with a duffel bag and a shrug, mumbling something about not being cut out for family life. Now here he was. Standing on my porch in sunglasses and a new leather jacket like a midlife crisis in human form. And behind him? A woman. Younger. Maybe 30. Too young to be holding his hand. He smiled like we were neighbors at a barbecue. Hey, stranger. I didn't invite him in. I didn't have to. Because she was already at the top of the stairs, barefoot, frozen in place, watching the man she barely remembered. Her voice cracked. What are you doing here? Greg gave a fake little chuckle. Well, I figured since everyone's talking about you online, it'd be good to come by. You know. Show support. You're 20 years late, I snapped. He ignored me. The woman behind him waved slightly, like this was some awkward dinner party. I don't want support, my daughter said. I want distance. Come on now, he said, stepping closer. I'm your dad. No, you're not. The words hit like a hammer. He flinched. She descended the stairs slowly, calm but shaking. You're a man who ran when things got hard. You didn't write. You didn't call. You didn't even ask where I went to school. You don't get to show up now like you care. Greg raised his hands like he was innocent. I just thought maybe we could talk. I've got a business now. I could help. If you ever need anything. Oh, so now you want to be useful? I cut in. Funny. When I needed help working 2 jobs and raising your child alone, you weren't available. I didn't come here to fight, he said. Then why did you come, she asked. His pause was just a second too long. That's when I knew. It wasn't about her. I saw that blog, he finally said. The DNA stuff. It's got people talking. You could probably sue for a settlement or something. My heart dropped. He wasn't here for her. He was here for the money he thought she might make from it. I'm not suing anyone, she said coldly. Greg looked at me. Maybe you should think about it. You raised her. You've got a stake. Emotional damages. The whole thing's a circus. We could spin it into something. I laughed. And it wasn't a kind laugh. It was the kind that comes from years of restraint finally snapping. Is that what this is to you? A circus? He blinked. I walked toward him until we were nearly chest to chest. She was abandoned, Greg. She asked me why her real parents didn't love her. And you were out there, drinking in dive bars, dating girls half your age, and not giving a damn. Don't come here now like you deserve a dime of her story. He looked away. I just thought, we could all win. She's not a headline, I said. She's a woman. And you don't get to profit off the wounds you created. The girl with him finally spoke. Let's go, babe. He hesitated. Looked up the stairs one last time. I know you hate me, he said. But if you ever change your mind, here. He placed a business card on the side table and left without another word. The door closed behind him. Silence. Then. She burst into tears. Not the quiet kind. But the heaving, broken kind that comes from a place too deep to name. I held her, and for the first time in years, she didn't resist it. She sobbed into my chest like she was 5 years old again. And I whispered over and over. I've got you. You're not alone. You never were. Later that night, I sat at the kitchen table long after she'd gone to bed. I picked up Greg's card. It wasn't just a business card. It had a note scribbled on the back. Let's not waste this moment. There's opportunity here. Call me. And under it, a dollar amount. 6 figures. He wanted to sell her story to a network. Profit from her pain. And in that moment, I made a decision. The next morning, I walked into a lawyer's office. Not for custody. Not for revenge. But for protection. Because if there's one thing I learned the hard way, it's that people will take from you until there's nothing left. And I wasn't going to let that happen to her again. Not from James. Not from Greg. Not from anyone. She may not have been born from my body. But she was my daughter. And I would burn the world down before I let them use her. I never thought I'd cry in a white dress store. But there I was. Sitting in the corner, clutching my purse like it held my heart together, as she stepped out from behind the curtain in a gown that didn't just fit her, it belonged to her. She didn't say anything at first. Just stood there in front of the mirror, holding her breath like she was scared to exhale. I feel different, she finally said. I never thought I'd wear one of these. I smiled through watery eyes. You look like the kind of woman I always hoped you'd grow into. She turned around and looked at me. And in her eyes, I saw a storm of emotion she hadn't quite learned how to name. But it was there. It had always been there. Buried under years of confusion, secrets, and silence. Until now. The wedding wasn't big. She didn't want it that way. Just a few close friends. Some family. A quiet chapel tucked into the hills. But the story had traveled. By now, millions of people had read the blog. Some supported her. Some called it a hoax. Some offered book deals. She said no to all of it. This isn't for clicks, she told me. It's my life. So we kept it small. But when she stood up to give her speech during the reception, there was nothing small about what came next. She held the mic like it weighed 50 pounds. Her new husband, God bless his soul, stood beside her, holding her hand. And then she began. Her voice was clear. Her words sharp. But her heart, raw. I want to thank you all for being here, she said. Especially since I know not all of you understand the full story. People shifted in their seats. Some knew. Some didn't. She continued. Most brides thank their parents at weddings. And for a long time I didn't know who that even was. I grew up thinking one thing, only to find out something completely different. A few gasps. A whisper in the back. But today isn't about what I lost. It's about what I found. Her eyes locked on me. And suddenly, I couldn't breathe. She didn't give birth to me, she said. She wasn't my biological mother. In fact, for most of my life, I didn't even call her that. I felt eyes turning toward me. But I stayed still. Because this wasn't my moment. It was hers. But let me tell you something, she said, her voice thickening. She held my hair when I was sick. She came to every school play. She packed every lunch even when we had nothing but bread and jam. The crowd laughed softly. She didn't. She worked 3 jobs and still found time to kiss my forehead before I fell asleep. She fought for me. Protected me. Told me the truth even when it hurt. My hands trembled in my lap. And when the whole world found out who I really was, she said, her voice breaking, she didn't say, I told you so. She just held me. The room was dead silent. Not even the waitstaff moved. And then she said it. Words I had waited 20 years to hear. But most of all, she never made me feel like I was borrowed. Or temporary. Or a mistake. She turned fully toward me, tears in her eyes. So today, I want to say it out loud. Not because I have to, but because I want to. She raised her glass. To my mother. She looked at me. To the woman who raised me, saved me, and taught me what real love looks like. I broke. Openly. Unapologetically. The kind of tears that don't come from sadness, but from release. Years of holding back. Years of wondering if I'd done enough. If loving her in silence had been the right thing. And in that moment, I knew. It had all been worth it. She crossed the floor in her wedding dress and knelt in front of me. I tried to stand, but she held my hands down and whispered, "Don't move. I want to come to you. Just this once." She hugged me so tight, I thought I'd lose my breath. And for the first time in my life, I let go. That night, long after the music faded and the lights dimmed, we sat on the porch together. No phones. No makeup. No audience. Just her and me. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. I looked out at the stars. "No," I said. "Not for a second." She leaned her head on my shoulder like she used to when she was little. "I'm sorry it took me so long," she whispered. "You didn't owe me anything," I said. "Love isn't a contract. It's a choice." "Well," she said with a soft smile, "you made the right one." And as the moonlight washed over her wedding dress and her eyes finally looked free, I realized something. I hadn't just raised someone else's child. I had raised my own. Dear viewers, please tell me and do comments. Do you believe real parents are the ones who raise you, or the ones who gave birth to you?